Charu Menon. I am a partner and executive producer at Hekla Singapore. Hekla is a production and post company and a CGI VFX house. We started off in Australia about 10 years ago, and we're now in Singapore for like 2.5 years. COVID hasn't affected us in Singapore a huge deal. We did have a 6-week sort of circuit breaker, which is what they call the lockdown here. And it did affect quite a lot of live action productions and shoots and stuff. But as far as post and CGI was concerned, I think we were, we did carry on. We were lucky in that we had enough work, long-term projects, especially some of them that kind of took us through a few months. And I think the timing of Hekla in Singapore was, again, we were lucky and fortunate because we'd already established before COVID hit. And so we had a few projects that sort of carried us through the period of the lockdown. And while definitely this year has seen a lot more, projects and the rate at which, we're getting pitches and stuff is much more sort of what we think is a normal year. But 2019, 2020 and 2021 were also pretty okay for us. I think I come from a pretty storytelling kind of household. My dad's a writer and my mom's an artist. So I think I've always kind of been drawn to storytelling. But I think for me specifically, the short form or storytelling and advertising itself was something I was attracted to just from, I think, watching just super high end, really well crafted little stories. And I think just the fact that you can elevate craft and tell a story in like 30 seconds or 15 seconds for me is what draws me to advertising specifically. And and I think ever since I've kind of been, especially with Hekla, just had an opportunity to do quite a lot of different sort of narratives, whether it's short form. We've even done like a documentary that was kind of based in India. So it's been quite diverse in terms of the kind of content that I've dabbled in. And they've all been super sort of high craft, which, is always, it's such a joy to kind of create and also watch. So I think that's been a big kind of motivator for me. Sure, I think just fresh from kind of judging, I think DNAD and a few other sort of, there was Curious Awards in India as well. And I think there's 2 pieces of work which I think I just found delightful that have happened in the last 1 year. One of them's Open Spaces, which is the Burberry film, which I think is done by Riff Raff out of the UK. And it just is just beautiful craft, and it's craft that isn't self-serving, as in it's craft that actually takes the story forward, and it's craft that is so seamless that you don't notice it. It doesn't come in the way of the story, it elevates it. And I think, the idea is just there's like, and I don't know if you might have seen it, but it's essentially 4 kind of individuals floating through, what looks like a forest. And it's just a stunning piece visually. Like they've got everything completely flawless, like the photogrammetry and the way the CGI has been created is beautiful. But also it's completely sort of, still about the brand, because what you're seeing throughout is obviously these people in these beautiful Burberry clothes. And even the last shot, which is all 4 of them, sort of above the sky, like kind of floating just freely, is something that is so memorable and something that's going to kind of, stay as one of the iconic sort of images, I think, from 2022. So I think that campaign really stood out for me. And then there was another one called Machine Gun Mouth, very different. It came from India, and it's a really sort of irreverent campaign of like a boy that's kind of making machine gun sounds with his mouth because he wants to like play a video game or whatever. And so the idea is, and it's really original. I think it's one of those ads that just got the casting, the art direction, the everything from the editing and the grading and the sound design just right. And it's just very authentic and believable. And it was just really nice to see that quality and caliber of work coming out of India. So yeah, I think those two were probably the standout campaigns for me. I mean, at Heckler, especially because we are in post-production CGI, VFX, there's always things changing. And even just with the whole, virtual production, which is not that new anymore. It's been here for a few years, but the whole idea that, you kind of almost do all your post-production at pre-production stage, you kind of have something that's sort of ready to go, real-time rendering. So I think obviously it's, things are changing from a technology point of view of like what's possible at quite a dramatic kind of pace. And I think, at Heckler, we try to make sure that we sort of spend a lot of time, whether it's R&D or whether it's like letting our artists kind of, just be at the forefront of all of this, whether it's like rendering using Unreal, or we recently did a project which was for Changi Jewel, where we had it's sort of like an AR experience with dinosaurs, and it's about kids kind of playing this sort of interactive game where they go hunting for like dino eggs in the airport, and and all of that, the environments and the dinosaurs were rendered using Unreal. So we have quite a lot of artists making sure that they stay on top of like emerging technology and new tech. But I think it's always a balance between, I guess it's a balance between like learning something new and doing it well versus making sure that it still kind of achieves what it's supposed to, as far as like it's not self-serving, it's not just doing something because it's cool or it's a gimmick or it's something that's kind of shit hot for a bit. But I think the idea is to always make sure that it elevates whatever we are doing and still kind of helps us achieve, that whatever the client is kind of after. I don't know if it's any specific trend that I'm mad about. I feel like what has been heartening to see in this, at least for 2022, the quality of the entries that I've seen in like other awards is the fact that there seems to be a departure from like what was the pandemic style of advertising, which was a very sentimental, very maudlin, very like, kind of heavy-handed approach. There is a return to something that's a bit more light and, is a bit more irreverent, and there's there's humor, there's wit. So I feel like those things are sort of coming back in very interesting and fresh ways. And I do feel like throughout, the stuff that we've seen around the world, there is still sort of a push for ads that are not just confusing sort of virtue signaling with. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, because I think during COVID there was also a lot of that, where there was advertising which was more about the message or the content of what they were doing versus the craft of what they were doing, versus what I saw this year, where it was genuinely not so much about virtue signaling, but more about saying a simple story in 15 seconds or 30 seconds. So there was a sort of return to lightness, if that makes sense, of like as a theme, which I quite enjoyed. I'm very excited to be part of AdStars. Never been part of the jury before with AdStars, and it is definitely a festival that I really look forward to in terms of just like following and making sure I'm on top of like what's happening. I feel like what is really exciting for me with AdStars is, I think, just being able to see quite a lot of like the top quality work from Asia, because I do think that some of the other global awards tend to be a little bit more skewed to maybe other parts of the world versus the amount of exciting work just coming out of Korea, out of Japan, out of Thailand, out of Singapore. So I think there's a lot of stuff that's coming out of the region that's that's authentic, that's fresh, that's just simple storytelling, which otherwise you don't sort of get too many platforms to kind of see them on. And I think I'm looking forward to like checking some really incredible work out, and with a mix of, you know, professional jealousy and awe. So it's going to be fun. I mean, just that, you know, get submitting. And I think the more that we can see, the more diverse work that we can see, you know, the more challenging it is and the more interesting it is, I guess, for the jury to like, you know, debate and deliberate. So I think, yeah, I think just kind of any piece of work that you're incredibly proud of, that you think deserves, you know, an MAD Stars award, I think should definitely be submitted, and looking forward to just, yeah, checking out all the work and learning, really. I mean, I think in terms of what's next for advertising, there's definitely some experiments with duration that's going on. Like, I think there's a lot of pieces these days that are slightly longer form, or like, you know, especially you look at, you know, the shot on iPhone series, which are like little mini short films, where you have, so I think the modularity of the content and the platforms on which it's being used, that I think is really interesting. And I feel like the fact that there's more and more like platforms, whether it's the sort of the TikToks or the, you know, the sort of super kind of quick social media consumption, or if it's sort of some of the longer form platforms that you have available, the fact that that's changing is quite interesting. And of course, tech is just, I mean, new technology. When you look at things like 3D billboards, or you look at, you know, interactive, or like just sort of all the stuff that's happening in the world of gaming, and, you know, the intersection between what's happening in the gaming world and like commercial creativity, and you look at the metaverse and you know, creating CG environments, that stuff, I mean, obviously we don't know where it's going to go, but it's definitely an interesting sort of trend. I think there is going to be quite a lot of brands that are going to try and own that space and try and create things that are more in the metaverse, NFTs, that sort of stuff, and some of them will fail and some of them will succeed, but I think it'll be an interesting trend to kind of definitely watch out. Apart from that, I think, I think definitely as far as tone is concerned, there's, you know, hopefully a return to like good storytelling and just good old, just, you know, wit and humor and, you know, engaging sort of stories being crafted to perfection. And I hope that's what we'll see. And I hope that the sort of weary advertising that we saw around the pandemic is sort of over, because I don't think I'm alone when I say that was just getting to all of us. It was just empty shots of empty roads and voiceovers. So I think yeah, that's my take on, I think, what we're going to see in the future. As far as plans for the future is concerned, I think it's quite an exciting time for Hekla at the moment. We're working on quite a few campaigns. It's been I think they're calling this year the year of like revenge shopping, which is where all the pent up kind of demand for, I guess, you know, everything that was kind of not possible in the last couple of years is sort of coming up, and it's definitely feels that way for us in Singapore. We're working on quite a few you know, design-led kind of VFX projects, as well as quite a lot of projects involving like effect simulations, you know, shape-shifting monsters made of smoke. It's been an interesting sort of mix of projects for us, and I think I hope that the rest of the year continues to kind of do that, because I think, we've been working we've got quite a big team here in Singapore and looking at expanding even further. So the idea is to sort of try and do more and more sort of award-winning, high craft kind of projects. In terms of closing remarks, I think just really excited to kind of check out all the entries and have some really interesting discussions around, what makes a piece of work worthy of an MAD STARS award, and just to kind of deconstruct every piece of work and then sort of try and make sure we award the people that are truly deserving of the award.